You can say whatever you want or be whoever you are. Make whatever you want, literally. Like you can make anything, and you're right.
I am so happy to meet you properly face to face and to see you, and thank you for making such a heroic trip back from Los Angeles. I could have just interviewed you in Los Angeles. That's the irony.
That was what but the whole point today was that we're in this beautiful new studio.
Correct.
So that's just I heard that when my team came to check out the studio, they were still like hammering and putting up stuff. It's really fresh.
No. It's been ready for weeks.
Just magically unfolded itself.
There's no one under here right now like hammering and we're talking, trying to get it done. So I love that remix so much. I love Electricity as a song, and as always, your selection, your taste, and who you choose to work with is fantastic. Salute, such an amazing artist, based out of Manchester, obviously not born there, but such an incredible producer. Arca, your friend, played with her at Coachella as well. What an amazing remix of Electricity that is. And to bring that to life in the desert, your second Coachella, I think. How was that?
It was nice to go back and to know what would be there for me, sort of, just to be a bit more familiar.
Yeah.
And it was nice to be in a small, when I went, was it 2 years ago or
22.
22. So 3 years ago.
Yeah.
It felt pretty hectic because we were a big group.
Yeah, 88 Rising, right?
Yeah, it was just like a crazy party the whole time. And there was changes happening everywhere and so many artists.
Yeah.
And, it was very stimulating.
Yeah.
So it was a very different experience for me just working with Arca.
It must have been crazy if you consider an Arca show to be mellow after that.
But no, literally, it's funny. Yeah, you're right. You would think it would be the opposite.
Yeah.
But I'm not. I guess I just it felt a bit more personal because I just feel a bit more comfortable naturally in like a smaller. I'm not great at like big gatherings and having a lot of people around.
Yeah.
And maybe Arca is like that too. We just had time, like a bit of downtime, and like we got our manicures done in our hotel room.
Everybody says that about her. They say that she creates this amazing sort of very personal kind of experience through the creative process, which is why artists like yourself, great artists who choose carefully who they work with Arca, because it's obviously something where it's a very safe space.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that safe space, that ability to be able to be a true creative and not feel the outside trying to get inside the room. And I feel like you've found that place now through your life. You've finally got to that place where you're like, hey, like I can build my room each time. I don't need anyone coming in.
I've been feeling more and more comfortable in my own skin when I'm in public. I think that was always really tricky for me because I feel so like not a public figure. I think we touched on this a bit last time, but I still feel a bit uncomfortable with the fact that I'm well known. Like it always hits me like, oh yeah, I am like famous in some ways.
Which is complete opposite to how some people who get famous at a very young age are. And I mean this with the greatest of empathy and respect. There's an arrested development that can occur when you become famous as a teenager or a young person, where that's all you are used to. And ultimately when that goes away, you're in shock. Like, what do you mean I'm not as recognizable as I was?
Like you don't know who I am?
Right. Because it's like you sort of pick up where that began. And that's sort of the opposite, whereas you were very, very successful, record-breaking success as a young artist. To this day, still the largest selling Japanese album of all time. Crazy. Out the gate as well. Out the gate with that.
Timing and everything, it's all like how the world was and
of course,
everything.
Of course.
But it was a crazy thing to happen.
Yeah.
But that's how it felt. It just always felt like that's crazy or that's weird. Or when people recognize me, it was like, that's strange. That's not normal. But I think it helped that I had a famous mother. So I always saw the backstage view of what fame actually feels like or is, that it's really just an illusion.
And she handled fame well. Obviously, you had a good teacher in that regard to some degree. Is that assumption?
Well, she was really cool in that she really didn't. She was really free. Like she was honest.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she didn't really, I mean, of course she was, she put on a bit of a, not polite, how do you say it? Like a presentation.
The
for the
performative.
public.
Yeah.
But if she saw something like on a TV show that, I hope I didn't talk about this last time too. We didn't talk about her that much last time, right?
No. I think you talked a little bit about how she'd given you some strength to move through some of the challenges in your life and ultimately make decisions that were beneficial to you. You gave her that credit. Yeah.
Yeah. So she was a role model for me in that she was just honest, and if she thought something was not right, she voiced it. And there was a bit of like the punk rock, like, I don't care what other people,
Yeah.
So that was wonderful. But I learned really early that that being famous it's just all a degree. So it's like being famous in high school. That just becomes your city or your country,
Yeah.
or the world for
Yeah.
some people.
Yeah.
So yeah, but and also because I think what was funny for me was that I became really famous in Japan before I appeared in public, and I didn't know what people expected me to be like.
That must have been so strange going out into the world for the first time, knowing that to some degree people were waiting for you. You had been kind of just living a normal life while everyone else was wondering, like, okay, when are we going to get to meet this artist?
And then on my first TV appearance, I tripped down the stairs.
You didn't.
And and it was one of the most watched moments on that show.
That's one of those beautiful moments where at the time I'm sure it felt like the world came to an end, but looking back on it, it's kind of perfectly poignant. It's the perfect thing. I mean, as someone your age going through that kind of thing, it's an actual normal human response to go, I don't know if I'm built for this, everybody. Like, I'm a human being. I just fell.
Yeah, but it's not really healthy for teenagers, I think, to deal with that much attention. So I feel very lucky that I made it through.
When we spoke on Bad Mode, I got a sense that you were still figuring out through collaboration and experimentation, like how do I control this joy I have making music and not feel like I'm giving it my power away or myself away. That's one of the themes I took from our chat. And then after that, you go out on a greatest hits tour that must have just been so amazing, not just for the fans to be able to celebrate your life and the music that has changed our lives, but for you to be able to say, I'm going to go out there and I'm just going to unapologetically embrace my life and my hits and my songs and play them for people.
The tour was incredible. I'm really glad that really happened. But I really meant it as, I said it at every show, but I really meant it as like, not to celebrate my 25 years making music, but the 25 years that everyone there, or even people that couldn't make it to the shows but wanted to, for them to look back on their 25 years and say, hey, like let's give ourselves a pat on the back. And
we're still here.
Yeah, exactly.
What was it like going out and playing shows of that size? You just made a really great observation about your preferred size of show and creating an environment that's less like big room. Those were big rooms. That's big places you were playing. What did you have to do mentally and spiritually to prepare yourself to go out and do that tour, even as a gift for us?
A gift. It was a gift for me. Every show. How did I prepare? I think everyone told me I looked, even like the people I work with, like my hair and makeup person, like everyone, they were like, they told me I looked more comfortable and like I was really enjoying being there more than ever before.
Yeah.
And it was true because I think I just, each time I've done tours and things, I feel more comfortable. I really feel like I'm not that experienced in performing. But it's true. Like, considering how long I've been putting music out, the number of concerts I've done is probably very, very, it's much less, I think, than most artists. And with not having a public persona within myself before I became famous, well, no one does, I guess. You have to find it as you get
It's double identity work, yeah. It is,
yeah. But then when you're a teenager and you're still figuring out who you are anyway.
You have an identity then.
It became a bit strange. But then more and more, I think I've realized, I can just go out like this. And my friends who came to watch the show, like even Floating Points, who stopped by my show in Tokyo or Saitama, I guess. The thing he said afterwards was, "You were just you." Like on stage.
What a beautiful compliment.
So I really felt that was a very rewarding.
With incredible lasers and lights that just like the performance of Traveling is wild. Like I watched that on YouTube when it came out, and the joy. By the way, isn't it amazing to think that you were dabbling in this world of Salute and Aka way back then? Like
Karen.
Yeah, that's right. I feel like that sound was very kind of, you were searching for this space even back then. You were trying to get in the club and figure it out, you know? And it was cool watching you perform that and seeing everybody just celebrate. And you looked really happy.
Yeah, it was a celebration. It was a really nice feeling.
How did it make you feel when it was over? I know that, like you said, it was a gift for you and you wanted everyone to feel like we've had this experience together, we've lived this life with this soundtrack, and what a joy. But did it leave you with a sort of lasting sense of what's possible beyond that? Like, was there a little bit of closure at the end of that tour and the science fiction era to look at something fresh?
There was I think my first feeling was relief that we got through the whole tour.
What were you worried about? Where did the relief?
Well, no, I mean, I have so much respect for artists who perform regularly, because it's a lot. It's like being, it's like you have to mentally and physically be in really like top shape the whole time.
Yeah.
And the pressure of like, what if I catch a cold? You know, then it's like something that's usually like, well, you know, if you get a cold, you just drink some orange juice and you're over in a couple of days. Like that kind of small thing.
Yeah. There's 100 people waiting for me to not get a cold.
It becomes a huge deal. So that pressure is when it's for over a long period of time, it's a lot, I guess.
Because it was a long tour for you, wasn't it? I mean, it was a couple of months. It was a few months of
going
out.
But at the end, what did I really feel? There's always a bit of emptiness, right? When a big project ends, whether it's you make an album or you finish a tour, there's always this like moment of loneliness, sort of, that something's ended. And then the letting go feels really nice. But it took me a while to get back to my regular sort of baseline, how I feel daily, because it's such a crazy thing to do, I think, touring. And I found these websites I forgot what the organization was called, but I shared it with the band that deals with how, like, the issues that touring musicians and like not just the musicians on stage, but the people, like the tech people and the sound engineers and the people that make the stage and carry that and all these things, what they have to deal with mentally and physically. And a lot of people report having, you know, different issues, and it's easy to lose your balance, and, you know, because it's a very unnatural lifestyle, I guess.
Yeah, it is. Making memories is hard for 40,000 people. It's, you know, it's
making memories. Yeah.
You know, it is a very selfless experience. I'm a big fan of this conversation. I come from a generation where if you were successful as a musician or an artist, as far as the general public were concerned, the general feeling was shut up and enjoy it. Right?
Yeah. What have you got to complain about?
You won the lottery. Yeah. You get to be a musician. Oh, cry. It's
just
hard.
Do what you like.
All that stuff, right? And that went on for decades. And I think in the last 10 years in particular, we've seen that conversation change a little bit. Fans have become somewhat more empathetic, and artists have become somewhat more open about what is required to go out there. See, two things can be right at the same time, right? There can be harder jobs than being an artist, but being an artist can still be a hard job.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, and so I thought it was amazing you went out and did that tour, because I did know that you were reticent. I don't know if that's a word you would agree with, but there wasn't a huge, like you said, a long list of shows. You didn't go out and do the 300 shows, like AAA World Tour, access all areas, pass thing. And are you any closer to understanding why, for you, as specific as possible, you didn't do as much touring or as many shows as you could have done
throughout my career? Well, one part of it is that there was no need to.
Okay, you don't have to. I'm doing 3 million a week, so we're good. What's the other reason?
It just never became a part of the machine, because I don't know with other people who says, okay, let's do a tour. How about we start getting ready? Like, no, there wasn't anyone around me who really said that to me. And once in a while, someone would say it, and I'd be like, yeah, I haven't done one for a pretty long time. We should.
Yeah.
And then the other big reason is it doesn't feel very natural to me. Like I didn't feel like, now I enjoy it more, and I feel like, you know what, I'm on stage and I'm sharing this space and music and these feelings with all these people, and that's amazing. And I'm just myself on stage. So when I'm singing, I'm like in the singing mode, but as soon as the music stops, I'm just like, oh, hi. I saw this weird dream last night. What about you guys? It's like a one-on-one. It's not like me with 20,000 people. It's more like me with another one-on-one times 20,000.
But it also feels like you accepted that every aspect of that experience can be creative. I think sometimes it's like, oh, I've been creative, now I've got to go perform the creative. It's like, wait a minute, I can dress fabulous. The lights can reflect the experience and add the mood. And the way the band is placed, it just felt very precise. I felt like the science fiction tour was you stuck the landing really well. It was like, okay, it just felt like it was a real experience for people there.
It was the most, and I mean, that's such a compliment, and it makes me so happy to hear that from you, because it was the most involved I've ever been in a tour. So from the conception, the concept, and the talking with Jason about the set design and all those things, just from zero.
It was beautiful.
And I was involved. I got to know everyone.
Just even when the lasers came out and created the fake floor in front of the stage, and the way the lights glittered across the top, it was beautiful.
Yeah, and there was, how do you say this in English? 演出? Like production? No, like overall general.
Yeah,
production?
the aesthetic.
Yeah, so there were people from different countries involved, and I ended up asking Yamada-san, Tomokazu Yamada, who's been shooting some videos for me and things. I asked him if he could step in as almost like the cultural translator, as the final touch in the production, because there's just some things you can't really get if you're not from that culture or that demographic. So he came up with these final touches and ideas. And he was there for every show.
Amazing attention to detail. It must have been really nice to see the difference that decision made every night.
Yep.
Yeah, smart. Not just that, but also in the music of things as well. I mean, you produced Bad Mode. You've really taken and have for a long time been very invested in the overall sound of your music. You're not just a performer and a singer. You're across everything. And I sort of wonder, like, how much of that has been a learning for you. I think back to 2001, you were working with Pharrell and Chad, like at
that's crazy.
Peak Neptunes. I mean, when they had 30% of American radio, you're like running with those two. So even back then, was your curiosity piqued? Were you like, watching, absorbing, figuring out, like, how can I apply in my life going forward what these individuals are great at?
I don't think I was that consciously, like, strategic or thinking about what Are you
sure?
I do think, but curiosity is the only thing that really drives me, I think. I always think of myself as a very lazy person, and I think everyone else works so hard, but people assume I'm busy, but I don't think I'm busy. But I think a lot of people, do this too, but I procrastinate and I put things off, or I'm late for something, or I panic in the last second, all those things. But I find that actually there is a science behind how to optimize being creative, and that's actually good in some ways for the creative process.
So you think subconsciously you were actually establishing a process or a rhythm for yourself that better served your purpose?
Yeah, I don't know why.
And watching Netflix. and just in your pajamas at home, not getting out of bed.
And just in the last 5 minutes, just do something great. No, but there is. I've heard some people studying this, and there is some science to, instead of being like, oh, first idea, get it done, and you're done early. There are some benefits to keeping something sort of, molding in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
Molding, is that the word?
Yeah.
And then to not jump to the first idea, but maybe you end up doing it a bit in the last minute, but you've had time until then to really think in the back of your mind lots of different approaches, and then maybe there's a problem along the way that helps you, or something that happens in your life over those like few weeks maybe. And I really enjoy that time when have to make a song, but I haven't really gotten into it yet. Or I'm thinking like, what is it I want to write about? What is it I'm interested in? What am I curious about right now?
Have you ever experienced writer's block? Have you ever trusted the process, got to the starting line and realized the engine won't start?
I do trust the process, and I do really believe in deadlines. I think most artists I've spoken with have agreed. But without a deadline, whatever I'm doing is like doodling. And when there's a deadline, I feel like, okay, let me get a canvas, like a proper canvas, and get my paints out instead of just doing like doodling. Or it's just all like experimenting, about experimenting until it gets to the actual, okay, I need to really make something now.
Well, it's because it's too much fun. Like, experimenting is so fun. I mean,
yeah,
that's why execution can be so hard for the artistic spirit, because the process of creating is just so enjoyable. Ending that even, that.
Is it?
I find that, okay, so Damon Albarn
Yeah.
has an amazing line about that, right? I was talking to a friend about execution, how certain things in my life creatively I've struggled to finish. And he said, yeah, but Damon said a great thing to me once. And I said, what's that? He said, well, then you get to make another one.
Yeah.
And that is such a simple little twist in the psychology of like, I can't finish it. It's like, but you got to, because otherwise you don't get to learn and make another piece of art,
Oh, that's great. That's so smart.
Yeah, smart dude.
I don't find the creative process there's, just because something is enjoyable, I don't think that means I like it. And just because something is difficult, it doesn't mean I don't like it. So the things I like to really focus on, or the way I like to spend my time, they're not like easy things to do or super pleasurable things to do. Like writing it's really tough for me, and like the time and energy and like the psychic energy, and it's difficult because it's not like if I wrote something, well, especially lyrically, maybe it's the tougher part. If I wrote something that was like, that's like, yeah, that's what it is, I've known that to myself, then it's not going to inspire any like for anyone else, right? So I have to get to a point. I'm not done with a song until something comes out for me that's like, oh, a revelation for me. Because I think that's the only way to make something that's worth someone else's like attention and time, and for other people to be like, oh, yeah,
that's a high bar. That is setting yourself a high bar every time, because to your point, it's less about craft at that point, and it's more about the dig.
Yeah, it's about self-discovery for me. And then so that's why I think the process is really important.
It's also probably why you put it off.
Yeah, exactly. But once I get into it, it's like, oh, I can't wait till it's like done. But then there's no rush, because there's no rushing, doesn't get you quicker to the goal. It's the paradox of the creative process, I think. It's not like a race. So.
Yeah, but when you were younger, I felt like you were racing. I mean, how many albums? It was like.
Really? I always thought I was slow, but then I guess if I look back, I was releasing like
a lot of songs in between, a lot of collaborations, a lot of things in movies and areas. You were just like, I went through and reminded myself, just found a link to what effectively is like your discography, like just breaking down, and every single era was like, album came out, did this, put out a song, 2 singles, collaborated over here, did this, came out, released a best of that. And so you wouldn't probably look back at your life like that, because that would be crazy. But
I should look at my discography, and
it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I guess that was. I mean, maybe there's a time for that, and I mean, because you're young, and it's just, it's like there's a time for everything. I wouldn't want to be like that now, but
Yeah. You say with a brand new song coming out.
no, but it's funny, like, because everyone always tells me, oh, but you always say after this you will take a break, but then you begin doing something. And I think that's how it is for a lot of people. Also, like this year I was going to, after the tour last summer ended, I was saying, okay, I'm going to take it easy for a bit. You know, it was like a big commemorative tour. And then I've ended up doing a lot of things, like actually traveling a lot for things too, like shooting in Lisbon and being in Barcelona for a shoot with Arca, and then back in London, and then I got to go to visit CERN in Switzerland,
How was
which
that?
was crazy.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah,
I mean, how was that?
it was incredible.
For someone who has deep curiosity, that must have been a very great experience.
Yes, it was. It felt very, very special, and I felt really lucky to be there. Actually, they let me take my son there as well. He couldn't go into every part of CERN, obviously for safety reasons. But
how old is the artist's son now?
he is 9.
So he is of an age,
Almost 10.
yeah, and so he is absorbing. He is seeing and absorbing at a very acute level, and that is a very high curiosity experience.
Yeah, I really enjoy seeing his curiosity, and I think I love that in just everyone. I mean, not just my son, just everyone. I really feel excited when I see another person's curiosity.
Yeah.
Because that's so relatable. There's yearnings and there's a hunger. And I think curiosity is a big hunger.
It's transferable. That's what I like about curiosity.
Yeah.
Is I can feel a little uninspired or perhaps a little low one day, meet somebody who has a take on something. And all of a sudden my eyes are open and my ears are open, my senses are alive.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Oh, I'm moving with it now. And that is all the time when you have children at a certain point in their life. Where the cognitive ability catches up with the cuteness. That's the perfect balance. Still cute and cognitive.
Starting to lie, but still kind of cute because you're not that great at it.
Not very good at it, right? I mean, it's so funny. Whenever I don't know why, I always had this thing with our kids when they were young where I was like, just don't lie. I was like, you can do whatever you want, just don't lie. And my wife would be like, just be better at it.
Life lessons,
just be better at it, right? The great contradiction of parenthood. She was right. That's a really beautiful time in your life. If you don't mind me going there as a fellow parent, to be able to just be around your son right now while he is absorbing and seeing things for the first time, really, for the first time.
Yeah. I mean, seeing the world through someone else's eyes is amazing. I mean, I always try to do that with everyone. I think that's how I think that's how I learn about myself, through seeing the world through other points of views. And I think that's why having... In terms
of how you relate to those point of views, it teaches you
something.
Yeah.
And just about the whole world and about yourself and about people in general and humanity. And a lot of truths come from looking at different points of views, right? And that's why I think it's so important to not surround yourself with people that just always think like you. It's really such a learning experience, and it's so inspiring to have to question yourself all the time. I think is a wonderful thing to have to do or want to do. I mean, we naturally do it to some degree, but to be aware of it.
There's a difference. If you have to do it, it comes from a place of feeling like you're making up for something. Like, I have to be more self-aware. That statement in itself would say to me, like, I'm not being self-aware right now. But to want to be more self-aware is way more of a beautiful place to land as a human, I think.
Yeah.
To want to do it, to want to do anything like that, I think is a wonderful place. And it's true. We do see the world through the eyes of those that we care about or those that we just meet. But like you say, when it's the first time, when someone's seeing it for the first time between sort of 8, sort of 13, it's just amazing. Amazing. So back to CERN. What did you see? Did they let you? I mean, is it safe?
No. Well, the underground, the part called Atlas, which is the detector in the Large Hadron Collider, that's 100 meters deep underground. And some of the most interesting things I took away from this whole thing was that the only reason I was able to visit that part of like the whole underground Large Hadron Collider part was because they shut off doing those big experiments during the winter months to save money for like electricity costs, because the costs go up in the winter, right?
Yeah.
So they're very like practical and, well, of course, right? It's a big organization. You have to be thinking about the economics of it all.
Yeah.
So normally there's so much like harmful, things in the area. So people aren't let down there. So that was the most exciting bit that unfortunately my son couldn't go see. I mean, we the adults, we had to wear helmets and go through these.
You'd hope so.
Gates
You'd hope the least they'd give you was like some kind of visible vest and a hard hat. Should I be wearing anything at all?
Just raw dog it.
Just raw.
No, they give you a little bit of protection, but it's a little helmet.
If you wouldn't mind taking your shoes off before you come into the hydrogen color, whatever it is. That's too funny.
And then once you get to the low level, I walked by this red shelf, like a glass case, and there were parts emergency kits that said like in case of like amputation or something, or like these. Whoa! Like, have you ever had to use them?
Okay, that's when you know it's real.
Yeah, it felt very real.
That's like being a kid on a plane for the first time, and it's like, what is that for? It's like, don't worry about it. We're not going to talk about that right now. Maybe
we'll learn when it gets to that.
Or not. Or not.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not, exactly.
It was just wonderful being surrounded by all these scientists and people, researchers and people who are really, really driven by curiosity. Like that's their whole, thing.
That's your thing. I mean, if I look at who you collaborate with, I look at Sunny, he's a scientist. I look at A.G. Cook, he's a scientist. I look at Akash, she's a scientist. I see the kind of people that you surround yourself with. They look at music as this beautiful art form, but they love to dive into the chemistry and the algorithm. But the different biology of music. It's not just like, do this, do that. It's like, no, it's something in between the spaces, And that's clearly something that inspires you. And how do you know when you meet somebody that this is going to be somebody you want to create with? Like, is it a feeling? Like,
I guess a feeling, or like you said, that exchange of energy when you're both curious people. That's a very special sort of. It's a like a je ne sais quoi thing, right? That you just feel. You can't really. But it's exciting. So I guess when something excites you, you know that's something. Interesting, at least. There's something there, right? Sometimes we're excited by things that are harmful to us.
Yes.
But even then, I think there's like something lies there, right?
Right. Right. Something to acknowledge at the very least.
Yeah.
You've had such a great working relationship with Sam, with Floating Points. Can we just talk a little bit about that particular creative chemistry that you have there? Because it's given such great music and obviously there's something really unspoken going on there. So my job is to try and put it into words. So what is in the best way possible? What is it like to create with Floating Points?
I love that we're both a bit awkward about it, like making something together.
In the room?
Well, because we're both not like super used to it. I mean, he collaborates with people, of course. I mean, I have as well. But I think we both feel most comfortable working alone. And we haven't done a whole deal. It's not like we've never been in like a production marathon sort of thing where, different people come in to work with you and they leave and go, as I've seen some people do. So it just felt very natural and naturally awkward. We have no formula. Like every time we don't know how we're going to make this happen, sort of. Or it hits a rocky stage when what we're both trying to do is a bit different, and we're trying to figure out how to merge this, or he hates this chord that I keep, using, or something like that. Or by accident something happens, and then we're like, oh, and then something suddenly clicks. And he has such a brilliant mind and like spirit, and just incredible, like almost like a magician. He just like does stuff. And
I love that you lean into the awkwardness of it as well. I mean, because I'm a big fan of that. Like, I'm all for the moment in the room where it's just a bit off. I'm like, no, there's something really
Yeah.
cool in this.
Yeah,
Something
yeah,
cool
yeah.
is going to come out of this
Yeah.
if we don't try to fix it.
But yes, things don't, I mean, it's, yeah, I guess we're both similarly awkward and nerdy. So I think the first time I met him, at the end, he was like, nice to meet you, and let's talk about nerdy stuff again.
What a sweet thing
Yeah.
to say.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
But that goes for everyone that I've been very fortunate to work with, all these people I love working with. Not just like the people that end up in the top of the credits, but whether they're like a bit more backstage, like engineers. Everyone, they just have the people I really respect and get along with. I think there's not just curiosity, but also like a kindness. Like you can just tell when someone's a good person, or they want to be at least, or they're kind. I mean, what's a good person? That's hard to define, but yeah, kind person.
Open to the human experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a bit awkward.
And a bit awkward.
Yeah.
I feel seen right now. Certainly on the awkward part, and I think I'm kind. You all did some great work together on Bad Mode, and what I loved about the success of that album. Again, you didn't tour conventionally or do anything. You did a great session at Air, which was beautiful, and that
Thank you.
done, ribbon on it, beautiful, brought it to life. One day you may hear these songs, but for now, enjoy this. It was just a lovely gesture. But what was really great about it too was and maybe I'm looking too deeply into this, but I'd love your take on this. During the first era, the 1.0 of success, I felt that there was this push and this pull going over to other territories. Like you're breaking records in Japan. You're clearly gifted. We've got to try to replicate this success in other parts of the world, right? It would be a great story. But you can't force that, as you more than anybody knows. Like it just happens organically. There's nothing organic about like make it happen. And what I felt that Bad Mode kind of did, whether you meant to or not, was actually perfectly encapsulate that ambition, but from your point of view. Did that make sense?
Yeah, no, totally, 100%.
Yeah. Was that a conscious thing? Were you like, I do want to do this in both languages because I think that I'm ready to do it now my way and not the way that these labels need me to do it or this press wants me to do it or all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, because it was natural, like you said. And I think there are, I mean, I can't really speak for how other people think or work, but at least just for myself, I feel really, really conscious when something is not natural to me.
Your stomach goes.
I just can't fake it.
Yeah.
So if something doesn't feel natural or from me, then the best parts of me like just turn off, because I'm not me anymore, or I feel like I'm lying. And
beautifully put.
So just by not being 100% authentic. So I mean, but I did want to try those things. Like when I said, I want to do something like just an English album because I've been restricted to Japanese. Then I wasn't just going along some kind of like label engineered thing. I said I want to do it.
And did you want to change your name to just Utada, or was that?
I think I don't really remember, but I probably, because people struggle to say my name,
right?
Hikaru. Like when I went in that English way, right?
Right.
And Arko was really sweet because every time from the beginning she was like Hikaru, and she speaks some Japanese, like she knows some Japanese phrases.
My family just ripped me in like just mercilessly when I try to do it properly. When I'm like, arigato gozaimasu. They're like,
oh, that's not bad.
On the record,
yes.
on the record. My sons are like, Dad, don't even try. Like it's not that great. Come on, you can do it.
How is his Japanese?
No, they don't try though. They're like, it's more disrespectful to even try. Come on, you can do it. Teenagers are like this. They're just
very self-conscious.
Hard work.
And and high standards.
Very high standards.
That's good. Very difficult to impress a teenager.
They're coming from a good place,
Yes.
But getting back to the whole idea of sort of knowing who you are, knowing what you represent to your community, your culture, and to yourself, and then wondering sort of, how do I make it easier on the rest of the world? Looking back on that, that's a pretty tough conversation to have with yourself. How do I make myself more palatable to other countries?
Yeah.
Kind of weird.
And that wasn't the right sort of, well, I mean, there's no right or wrong way, but I was also figuring out where I stand, like culturally, because that's the ambiguity of it for me has been a part of my identity. So I think, I can see that I was really young and I was still not comfortable with how people saw me or how I saw myself. I wasn't too sure about that part of me. But then at some point I thought, oh, but the fact that they're separated, that was the problem, right? It had to be like Japanese and for a Japanese audience, sort of, or
where's your English? Yeah, where's your
English
speaking single, right?
Yeah. The fact that they had to be like compartmentalized was what felt strange. And then, but I was the one who represented no, all of that doesn't really matter. You can be two different things at once, or three different things at once, or four different things. All these paradoxes can exist, and it's actually, I think the problem was we were trying to get rid of the paradox somehow by almost like pretending one side didn't exist when I did the other. And then over my break, we're just growing older and maturing, or maybe even becoming a parent and watching my son growing up as an international, multicultural person, which is super normal now. More common now. With Bad Mode, I just thought, you know what? I don't have to limit. This doesn't have to be a single language album. I'm a multilingual person, so this can be a multilingual album. Why didn't I do that before?
Yeah.
I had English in my songs, in my Japanese songs from early on, but I limited it to like sprinkling it.
Yeah. Yeah. One last kiss. This, just dabbling and
So, yep.
But you're right in the sense that, we talked a little bit about this at the beginning about the idea of kind of the benefit of some experience and wisdom. If we could just transport that into some of the decision making we had, when we were younger, we might have been kinder to ourselves, but we wouldn't have got to this place. It's a kind of interesting swirl of like reaching a point in your life where you start to kind of ultimately heal your own decisions as a young person and get to that. And I feel like this is really kind of a beautiful, based on the music you're putting out, the tempo, the mood, the feeling of celebration, the idea of having the science fiction celebration with your fans. It feels to me like you've come to this beautiful place of acceptance of like, this is my life now. I am an artist and always have been, but I know myself now. With more to learn.
I know that I don't really know myself.
Right, some acceptance.
Still, but that's the fun part, because like if you think you know yourself, you're going to be wrong the next second, because we're always changing. So I feel great that I don't have to. I guess it's not that I have to know who I am. It's more like to keep on wanting to know who I am and who I'm becoming all the time, and everyone else in your life. Because once you think, I know this person, or this relationship is like this, then again, you end up being wrong sooner or later, because nothing stays the same.
So what's the answer? Being present? Is that the answer?
Yeah, always. Well, again, like with the curiosity, but just being curious about the people in your life, and don't assume anything, and about yourself, and be questioning things all the time. Then that's where I thought, that's my interest in science, where that comes from, because where I see artists similarly to scientists is because you're always questioning the truth, and what you know, like what you're assuming. What have I been just assuming all this time? Like, what am I wrong about? Rather than thinking you know everything.
There's no learning there.
Student for life.
Student for life. I'd love to talk about this new song, Mine or Yours. Again, it seems to be a standalone single or a song right now. So where were you when you made this song? What was the environment, both internally and externally, when you made this song?
I was recovering from my tour, I guess, and then it took me some time to want to make music again, like new songs. I was just like, doodling and stuff, but and then I thought, okay, I need to make a song now, and I want to. And it was about paradoxes and how to deal with them. And I did a lot of like listening to people talking about like how do you make life choices, and because when I do Instagram live events, and not events, but just talks, and I ask people to send me questions they'd like to ask me. There's so many of them are about making tough life choices. And I don't know why they ask me. I don't think I have like the model life if you look at like my personal life, but that's what a lot of people spend time thinking about, I guess.
I think it's a reflection on that, not to interrupt, but that your music clearly helps others process things in their life. That's the great trait.
Oh, that would, if that is true, I love that. But yeah, and me too. Like there's times when I think, oh, what should I do? And there's always, we all have decisions in the back of our mind we want to make.
There's always Tom York over there. Yeah.
So I was, I found myself a bit stuck in like, oh, do I go this way or that way? Like, do I choose A or do I choose B? Or what if I choose B, then like what happens after that? Or A, like, and decisions that don't involve just myself, but other people in my life. And it just felt really complicated. And then I got to a point where I realized, oh, well, I don't have to pick A or B. It can be both, or it can be A sometimes and then B sometimes. Or so like instead of trying to get rid of these, options or paradoxes because they
Embrace
can't
them.
both exist. Yeah, like they can exist together, and that's what we're supposed to be doing in life.
That's freedom. That's freedom when you realize that two things can be true. Paradox is my friend was having a conversation with me recently about that term, and it's been very present in my life since that conversation because he said a very similar thing to me when I was in London. He was like, I'm really about embracing paradox right now. And I just loved that. So you
Sounds great with a British accent.
Yeah, it's really about embracing paradox right now. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so it's beautiful to hear you talk about this because I'm practicing that myself at the moment. How did that translate into a piece of music though? To have that observation and then realize that there was a piece of art attached to that somewhere you just had to find it.
I think it's the writing process helped me. Well, that's how it usually ends up. So I would start having a theme in my mind. I feel a theme forming. So, mine or yours, that's, A or B. And then as I'm coming up with finding the actual words and the lyrics are falling into place, or I'm still wondering, what else do I want to say? It's usually in the last 3 lines I have to write. With a lot of blanks in it. I'm like, what do I want to say? I feel like I've already put down what I've been thinking about, what I've been absorbing. And then there's a bit of a push at the end where I have to dig beyond, beneath that.
Is that a process now or is it different every time? The dig at the end.
The dig it always has to happen, I think. Because I can't get to that point of that's, oh, I hadn't thought of it that way. Or, oh, I didn't know that's how I felt. Or it just feels good to get something out of me.
Is it uncomfortable till it feels good? It's got to be, right? That last bit's got to be the uncomfortable place, doesn't it? To some degree? Like, oh man, do I really want to put that down on paper? Like, do I really want to acknowledge that?
No, I actually don't think of that at all. Because it's for myself.
Right.
And I don't think of it when I'm making anything. I don't think about people listening to it or.
Interesting. So you reserve the right to not. Of course, you never do it with the idea this is coming out. Like maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's just for me. Maybe it just sits on paper forever.
Yeah, I guess I could even do that if I really wanted. But I do. I'm aware of humanity as I'm writing because they're all symbols, right? Words are just symbols. Music is just symbols. This table is just a symbol. The headphone is. So there has to be like a consensus, or you have to think about other people that use that symbol too when you're putting something together like that, like lyrics and things. So I'm aware of people, I'm aware of others when I'm, crafting something. It's because there is a message in it, right? But I don't think at all about I don't think of it as an embarrassing thing, I guess. I just don't have that. Not now, if I said something embarrassing, I would feel very embarrassed. But when it's I think that's the safety of making a song or anything that's creative, because you can say whatever you want or be whoever you are, make whatever you want, literally. Like you can make anything and you're right. Like, you don't have to make any excuses for it or get someone's permission. Like, you just...
Yes, that's great. Oh, I'm sorry. You've had some real ones today. I feel like...
Thank you.
Really...
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a few home with me. Thank you.
I'm honored.
No, I'm having the best time. No, it's true, but it's refreshing to hear in the age of the internet, because a lot of artists, in particular young ones, who suddenly find success, perhaps even around the same age you found success, I think they find more pressure telling the truth because they're worried that once you put it out, it just becomes the internet will do its thing. The internet will have its way.
Yeah.
It seems to me through conversation that you have found a way to distance yourself from that being an influencing factor of your writing. That I'm not. So, what is your relationship like with modern life? Like, how do you integrate yourself, especially as a mother, and also as an individual who's highly curious? How do you work in the noise factory, because it's noisy?
But noise becomes background noise. I mean, right? So I said I'm not embarrassed about anything I write in like music in the context of like artwork or anything like that. But I am always very like a bit scared to do interviews or like I think it's the when you're just talking part that can be used improperly, which is really scary. Or then you don't want to be misunderstood, and it can be frightening.
Wait till you see the edit we do on this one. I thought that my fans sucked, and she was a difficult person to work with.
It's the edit. It's just the edit.
It's just no, I understand, and it's something I had to make peace with very early on in this part of my life. I'm very curious about the artist's spirit and what goes into making music, and I understood very early on that it's not actually an experience that's mutually appreciated. It's appreciated if done well, but it's also very awkward. To talk about themselves.
But it highlights even more like the reason why people love being on your show or listening to your show or want to come back again is because you just feel it so plainly that there's, you're taken care of, and there's a sense of trust. And
thank you.
Well, maybe I shouldn't speak too soon until I see the edit.
Exactly. I just, you know what? I really thought I got that guy. That guy's what a piece of shit that guy is. Unbelievable. Wow. He just turned out.
I said, what? No. But it must be tough, I think, to have that at your fingertips the whole time. It's so tempting.
Not at all. It's not for me. Not for me.
You don't need any YouTube limits or.
Nah, man. I'm here for this. The truth is, and this may come across as a bad thing, but I love the result because of the work that people put into it. But perhaps I think of this in the way some artists do, not to be too pretentious about it, but I do this for now. Like what I get is this. That's my experience. The other stuff is for other people to listen to or watch or hopefully get something from you. I'm just a conduit. But this is my joy to talk to you here right now. That's what I love about doing it.
Thank you so much.
We've run out of time, and I really wanted to talk to you for a couple of minutes about your taste, because we have similar taste, and I wanted to nerd out about the Blue Nile, and I wanted to nerd out about Jeff, and I wanted to nerd out about all these artists that I still to this day absolutely adore. Perhaps I can get one more question, if that's okay, and we can just give a little bit of time and a little bit of love to like Paul Buchanan and the Blue Nile and just what you love about them, because it's a band that have been there for me during some incredibly tough times in my life, and I only realized it recently that I only really go to the Blue Nile for safety and for understanding. It's really interesting, just the way the music comes together, and I was just really like very happy to see that on the list of artists that you obviously credit as being some of your favorites.
I've loved the Blue Nile for a long time. It's what. Like even when my son was a baby, it's one of the songs. I would play some of their songs and dance with him in the kitchen and stuff. I relate to what you said. Maybe I think there's some music. I mean, music is meant to be listened to, but I think really great music are almost like good listeners. Like, right? They sort of let you have your feelings, right, in that space.
They allow you.
So when someone asks me what I do and what it's like to make music, I try to explain it like how it's actually more of like subtracting than adding, because technically you could. And the Blue Nile have a rather simple, like they have a lot of space in their, even in their mixing.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds really nice and satisfying because the mix is very like well thought of. But you know, like there's not that many instruments and it's quite simple.
Yeah.
But that gives you room to. They carve out enough space for you. I like to compare making music to architecture. Because you're making the frame for something, but you don't want to stuff it. Like you want to keep these open space. What you're making is you're making a space rather than a filling. You know, so maybe that's why they feel nice to listen to when you need.
Have you ever met Brian Eno?
No, I haven't. Have you?
Yes, and can I say that I really think that you and Brian Eno would have a wonderful time meeting, because so much of what you've talked about over this hour reminds me of conversations I've had with him where he's so curious, and even just now talking about the idea of the creative creates, and there can be a maximalist inclination for a creative to keep adding, but the listener, talking about being self-aware of the human experience, actually only needs so much to be able to get the feeling and to understand the feeling. It's kind of, you can't have one
The
without
paradox.
the paradox. Should we leave it on a paradox?
Yes.